Hey neighbor, welcome to the show. There've been some interesting studies done in the last little bit, and further back than that, is gardening really good for your soul, for your mental state, and for your physical being, for exercise? We're going to get into that today. Welcome to the Row by Row Gardening Show, the best dadgum gardening show on the internet, where we talk about gardening, a little bit of cooking, and growing your own food. Now sit back and enjoy. But these things needs to be planted, and I think right now, within the next week or two, I think it's probably okay to get okra out. I think it's getting there.
I think it's just the pecan trees are blooming.
Yeah, so we've got okra. We started in a greenhouse, and we'll transplant probably within a couple of weeks. You guys is going to direct seed, I think, within the next 2 weeks in zone 8 and 9. I think it's okay. You know, in the past, you've done it as well as I have, planted in two cooler soils and not got germination. Tell you something else I did this year. I planted squash and cucumbers about 3 weeks ago. Got 15% germination, 15 to 20% germination. I said, wow, something's wrong. So I went back and planted the exact same lot number and same exact varieties, and I got nearly 100%. The soil was too cool. And I'm supposed to be able to get squash and cucumbers up in March. But we had extremely cool weather this spring, and it hampered germination on some seeds.
Yeah, last week was a little cool.
It was. I mean, and this soil temperatures has a huge effect on seed germination. So it's. I thought we may have had some problems, but I went back and checked that actually the seed viability was fine. It's just my soil was too cool. So I finally got squash and cucumbers coming up. A little behind on that, but so be it. It is what it is. We was actually in North Carolina this last weekend and woke up one morning at 34 degrees. So you guys up there, we feel your pain. But y'all,
we didn't see a lot of gardens.
No, but they just starting to get started up there. We did go into a farmer's co-op and snoop around a little bit. And those guys were starting to talk about gardening a little bit. So it's coming around. I think they're probably going to be about a week or two before they start with their tomatoes and things like that. We had an early Easter this year, so it made a little bit of difference there. And of course, we've got flowers blooming.
Yeah, my irises. Usually, when the irises start blooming, it's springtime.
Yep.
Lavender is doing really well. I saw a live last night. Tracy from Just Dig It did, and she talked really intensively about lavender and what kinds we can grow here and why we have trouble. It's really interesting.
It is. I've heard her talk about that before. I did not know that.
I don't know what kind this is that I planted, but it does really feel really well in the spring when we get the high humidity. And we've got
some of these are out of our wildflower mix.
The yellow ones are out of the wildflower mix. I think the orange poppies are too. But yeah, it's exciting to.
Yep, you see everything coming alive in the springtime. I just mentioned to my friend Will a couple of days ago how excited I am about springtime. Love this time of the year. Get outside. The days are longer. We get plenty of it done. So
I really like going out working the garden. After we eat, we like to eat an early dinner and get in the garden around 7. That, to me, is like the golden hour between 7 and 8. It's just perfect.
You know, I've not thought about that, but you're exactly right. Seems like you're de-stressed at that moment.
Yeah.
After you get through eating supper, you go out there. That's a good point.
I mean, I'm not tackling big projects, but just little things.
Or maybe a walkthrough to find out what you need to do the next few days. I do that quite a bit. I got to do more walkthroughs than I do actual work.
Yeah, I had some visitors to my garden last week.
You did?
I did.
Yeah, I was in a conference call, and my phone just started going off everywhere. And of course, I was on a Zoom call. I couldn't. It would have not been rude if I'd got my phone out, so I kind of ignored it. Couldn't find out Mama Hoss and our neighbor had some issues.
Yeah, I walked out my back door, and the potato garden's right on the other side of the house, and they were probably about 20 cows, but to me, it looked like they were 100 cows in my potato garden. And they did eat some peppers. So, at the tops off the peppers. So we can actually test, just one row, we can test, does peppers produce better with the tops being off.
So our neighbor left his gate open, supposedly, and his cows got out. Now, that night I called the neighbor and asked him, I says, I need to find out who to send this damage to that did our cows. And he says, what cows? He says, did they have any ear tags on? I said, well, I didn't look for ear tags. But he's notorious for not taking claim for his cows getting out, but we help him get back in.
But now I have like impressions in my soil that I have holes everywhere
Where the cows step.
Because it had just rained like 3 inches.
Anyhow, they got the cows back in.
Yeah, I had minimal damage, just a few pepper plants. My one cabbage I had down there, they ate.
Cabbage they ate.
Yeah, I was saving that cabbage. But
All right, so let's do knife of the week. And you know, it's hard to believe that I'm still doing knives of the week with knives that I've not shown people before. Right? Can you imagine I got that many knives?
No, it's not hard for me to believe, no.
I want to show everybody this one today. This is what they call a Bowie knife, and if anybody knows much about knives, they know where the name Bowie comes from. Jim Bowie, back in the day right here. My friend gave me this years ago. Now this is one that's been beat up and scratched on a little bit.
Is that one Ryan gave me?
It is, but it has a little sentimental value to me because it was given to me by somebody. So I got this one I keep put up. This is the exact same knife, so I bought me a brand new one, case Bowie knife, and I hang this one on my wall.
And why do we need two?
Well, one of them's never been used. And we hang this one on the wall. This is wall art, Sheila. This is wall art here. And I have this hanging right there in my office right there. And this is a never been used case Bowie knife. But I love Bowie knives. Now, Bowie knives are not very feasible.
And so what
I've got
use
more
would
than
you
one.
have?
Talking about it, basically, yeah.
I mean, would you tote something that big?
No, I've got one I started to show down. Probably going to show next week that's actually bigger than this right here that I'll show. But I love the history of it. The history of the Bowie knife. Anyway, there you have it, folks. Case Bowie knife. So you may want to get one and hang on your wall. I have axes hanging on my wall and knives hanging on my wall.
Well, you might need to share a few of those pictures of.
Yeah. You know, art is in the eye of the beholder. To me, art is somebody makes something with their hands. It's functional. I think that's art. To me.
My garden is my art.
And sure it is. Yep. All right, turmeric. We still got a little bit of turmeric. We're going to be selling, but we've got to get ours planted. So we're going to plant some in a root pouch and move underneath some shade. What we're going to do.
I'm just waiting for you to move my root pouch.
I've got to do that. So we still got turmeric a little bit. We don't have a lot. We got a little bit left. Sweet potato plants, we have those pre-sale. If you bought your sweet potato plants, they're going to start shipping the 15th of this month. Now they will ship the south first and kind of works their way up. So you'll have different ship dates.
No, everybody's will be shipped April 15th.
No, they'll work their way up. So you'll get a shipping notification.
And when you get them, they may look.
Sweet potato plants look horrible when you get them. They
may look dead.
Yeah, but you plant them, they'll come out and be fine. It's just normal. So don't stress or anything. If you do have any problems, no fear, we're going to take care of you, but they're going to look rough when you get them. That's just the nature of sweet potato plants. We have also tomato plants. We'll probably be sold out of peppers. We're a little short on peppers. We got tomato plugs, plenty of them for right now. We're probably going to be out before long. So if you need some tomato plugs, we got Shelby, we got Better Boy, we've got Red Snapper, we got Halcinator plugs. So
we should have them for about 3 or 4 weeks.
Should have, yes, unless we sell out.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, is gardening good for you? Because we went down this is a rabbit hole that we started discussing the other night. We want to talk about on the show. When we went down this thing, and both of us did our different study and research, it's interesting some of the things we found out. Now, as you get on up in age a little bit, your health starts taking more of a toll on you. You don't exercise as much. You're not as active. You start having some weight problems. You start having some limitations about this, that, and another. It happens.
Well, I think you start getting arthritis and inflammation. Your joints start hurting. Then you don't move as much. And because you don't move as much, you lose that mobility, that flexibility. It's just a couple of years ago, I had an issue and I had actually lost my balance. Do you remember that?
I do.
And I had to actually retrain my brain to teach myself how to balance again. And I think I had hurt my foot, so I went through a couple of weeks of immobility. It's just easy. It doesn't take but a split second to lose that flexibility.
We're both in our late 50s, so if you feel our pain, you know exactly where we're at. In my around 35 was my prime. I could do anything. I could work all day long, all night long. Didn't nothing slow me back. I tell people, and I remember, I didn't think about picking anything up back then. When I was 35, it didn't matter what it was. I didn't even think about it. I just did it. This day and time, I think about it a little bit.
You know, simple things is, we were in the parking lot of the day and I almost tripped over one of the parking boulders. I didn't have to used to think about where I put my feet and what was down there.
Yeah, but now we do.
Now we do.
Yeah, think about, is there a possibility I may get hurt?
Am I
Enough
gonna
of
trip?
talking about old age. All right, let's talk about
What can you do about it?
gardening. Is it good for you? Is it good for you? Well, I knew that physical activity was good for you. I knew that, and I knew gardening probably was. I did not know to the extent of what gardening can do for a person because we've done it for years, and I didn't realize what the benefits of gardening was sometimes until I started reading some of these studies of the benefits of gardening mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yeah.
So tell me what you think.
Well, let's start off with physically.
Okay.
Okay. So you can go buy expensive gym membership and drive to the gym,
Yep.
spend 30 minutes there, drive back. What's that? 2 hours of your time,
It is.
maybe, or let me say an hour at the most. You can walk outside, and 30 minutes of gardening is equal to a 30-minute walk.
And one of the main benefits that was pointed out this, and I didn't realize this, was if you go to a gym, you're not getting what we call vitamin D, which is sunlight. They've been studies done, and I'm on one of the places I got my information was the Royal College of Physicians. Now, this is in the UK. This is a research paper that they did on exercise and everything, and they emphasize how important vitamin D is. So even though you're getting that exercise inside there, the sunlight added to the exercise is really what brings it all together.
Well, that too, and when you garden and think about you're squatting, you're bending, you're stretching, you're working the arm muscles if you're hoeing, pulling weeds. You're doing you've got a whole gym out there in your garden.
So I planted the majority of my garden one Saturday. Was it last Saturday? It was the Saturday before last. Saturday before last. And it's been a while since I got out and really just stayed in my garden all day long. And that night, I hurt all night long because I'd used muscles that I hadn't used in a long time. And I realized, man, I'm in bad shape. But did out there working in that garden all day long, it really worked me down. But it was good to work those muscles that I hadn't worked in a long time and to realize what kind of bad shape I was in.
Yeah. Well, it's good for you, the exposure to the sun.
Yeah, leaning over, stretching those muscles in your legs.
Weight bearing, the stretching, and I read a study in the UK too of how well exercise in the garden for mental.
Yeah, so this is one that really caught me off guard here. Now, not to disgrade mental health any, because to be honest with you, I know very little about people with mental health issues. But I will tell you this right here: being able to work out there in the garden can be really refreshing to your mind. And people that have stress, and we have our fair amount over here too, to me is a good reliever. When I can get out there and work in the garden this afternoon with my dog, it helps me just clear my mind and everything. Another thing too, that physical working out there, if people that do have depression or things like that, can really help them kind of overcome that. Being tired, helping you sleep at night, mental things. But this is one thing that really struck me, and this was in this research I read right here. Research is shown that gardening can help reduce dementia by up to 50%.
Oh, wow.
50%. Now, if you ever had anybody in your family that had Alzheimer's or dementia, my mother passed away from, we all have that fear, well, we're going to be the next one. So it's just natural that if you face that in your family, you have the fear that you're going to get that. So when I read that it was 50% reduction in
Then you know something you can do to
then you
help.
know something you can do with that.
It's not going to hurt anything.
No, but it helps exercise. It helps exercise your mind. Another thing too is not to, and I really make a purpose to do this right here. I try not to have any distractions. Now, each to their own. But I don't want a radio playing when I'm in the garden. I don't want no ear pods in my ear when I'm gardening.
And I like to listen to.
I don't.
I do.
I want to be out there and I want to be in the moment with the nature where I can hear my corn grow, where I can hear different things, or maybe an animal moving around or whatever. That's what I love to hear, the birds and things like that. I think it has a big influence on the way our minds proceed and lets us relax in that garden.
This is off the subject a little bit.
Natural settings.
Did you walk outside during the eclipse yesterday?
I did.
Did you notice the difference in the atmosphere?
I did.
Did you hear the birds?
I did. They were confused.
Confused.
They were confused.
They were very active though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just kind of an eerie feeling.
And it was kind of overcast.
It was hazy.
Kind of hazy, yeah.
Yeah, it was hazy.
Yeah.
No wind blowing.
Yeah.
So for physical mental health, we've established this.
Yeah, for mental.
For no other reason.
And both of those are just as important to me. And to help with you get your mind back where it needs to be, to appreciate things. And I've gone down the route in the last couple of years of mainly planting a lot of wildflowers, planting things for pollinators, because I love to hear those bees. Those things I like to pick up. My senses with my ears are just as important as everything else. So being able to listen to those insects, bees, and things like that. If you've never heard corn grow, if you stand still when your corn's, and we're fixing to be in that stage where I love to listen to that corn popping, hear it grow. I love that. I love that sense of the birds or whatever and everything else. That, along with the physical, being able bending over, using the wheel hoe, whatever, helps me relax more when I go in for the evening.
Okay. Other benefits of why people garden.
Spiritually, we talk about spiritually in a minute. So, regardless of what your religious affiliation is, if you have any or not, to me, it gives me appreciation for what my God has created and everything. I love to be able just to see flowers, one of the main things. Flowers to me, when I see that kind of stuff, it's just really...
The colors,
the
smell.
Brightness of the colors and everything just gives me a awe, and it helps me to meditate just a little bit on what my Creator has done for me. So I'm really... that's deep for me the older I get. Now, when I was a young person, I didn't appreciate that as much. But the older I get,
where it came from, how it started, or how it even happens.
Or if you paid any attention, well, but the older I get, the more I appreciate those kind of things. And there's some other things out there. One of them we're going to talk about is being barefooted.
Let's do it before we get to that.
Okay, because that's really interesting. We got something that we found that we thought was funny.
Another reason is growing your own food, is gardening, is you know what you're getting.
Yeah, and this really crosses over here, one here that you may not, that I read, that self-esteem. People that have self-esteem problems overcome a lot of times by being able to create a skill set so they can grow things, and it is a great booster for people's self-esteem, is being able to grow things. Have you ever noticed, and we've noticed over a period of time, when people grow a big cabbage or a big watermelon, they just love to show it off. They're so proud of themselves. So the point of being able to do something to create that, because to be honest with you, we don't all have the same abilities. Music abilities, athletic abilities, things like that. Nobody loves music no more than I do, and I have zero music abilities, but I can grow things. So that is a huge benefit for people that have something that they've not found what they're good at. They can grow things.
Do you know there's a bacteria that's actually good for you? Getting dirt under your nails while you're digging is actually healthy.
Oh, I knew that. I didn't know there was a particular name for it.
Well, it's inhalin I can't say this, VACCAE.
That's a long word.
It's a healthy bacteria that lives in the soil and increases levels of serotonin and reduces anxiety.
I did not know that.
So I think, when I get out there in that soil and I'm just digging, it's just so soothing. I think that's it.
So I planted some tomatoes this morning. I had to finish up a few minutes, and I found myself on my knees out there in the garden digging with a hand trowel. Yeah. Just getting in that dirt and everything.
Dirty.
Yeah.
So you get better food, fresh vegetables. You know where it's come from.
That's almost a different show right there.
Yeah.
That's huge right there. We can get into that, but that's definitely a health benefit to it. But we're not going to deal with that a lot because that's deep, folks.
So let's talk about getting barefoot in the garden.
Barefoot in the garden. There's some research out there that going barefoot in the garden can be extremely beneficial. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I have thought about doing this.
Really?
I have.
It's called earthing or grounding. And so it has amazing benefits, but there is lack of scientific evidence. So not really sure if the science is out
But if you've
there.
ever walked barefoot, and we was kids, we walked barefoot all the time. It is a feeling that you have with the ground there. That
Well, you're putting yourself in direct contact with the earth.
you just feel when you was a kid and you run around barefoot. You just have that memory, don't you?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try that.
You know,
I'm gonna go barefoot. Now,
Do you know the science behind it?
I do not.
So the earth has a mild negative charge. Over time, our bodies build up a positive charge. So the thinking is if you go barefoot or in contact with soil or water, the air, these free radicals that are bad for you, that help cause chronic inflammation, disease, that the negative charge in the earth and the positive charge of your body, it neutralizes it, and therefore lowers the inflammation and things that cause chronic issues.
You sold me on it. You sold me on it. So if you come by here, you'll have to find us barefoot in the garden. And I'm gonna give this a try. I'm gonna come up here. Here's my problem.
You're tenderfoot.
I'm tenderfooted, and I got to walk through stickers in the yard, and I got to walk through a rock parking lot to get to my garden.
Well, you just get.
I'm gonna pull my shoes off
Pull
in the
your
garden.
shoes
I'm
off,
gonna pull my
yeah.
shoes off, and I'm gonna get dirty with my feet, and then I'm gonna put my shoes back on and come back to the house. Because I'm gonna tell you, I can't walk across rocks. I've tried it. Now the stickers I could probably somewhat take better than the rocks.
You reckon that's why some kids are healthier than others?
Sure it is.
'Cause they
Sure it is.
Run
Yep.
around without shoes on.
And with dirt underneath their fingernails. Yeah. absolutely.
I wasn't ever sick as a child.
Yeah.
I never wore shoes.
I didn't either.
Never wore shoes.
I can remember, now I didn't do it, but I remember a guy when I was probably 18 years old, and we put up tobacco. There was a guy that cropped tobacco barefooted. Now he could walk across a briar patch. His feet were so tough. He didn't wear shoes at all. But I never could do that.
All right, so if you find Greg not wearing shoes in the next video,
I'm in the garden.
he's grounding.
I'm grounded. Yeah. I may just put me some flip-flops on. My Crocs. I
No, you gotta come up.
I know, but I'm talking about wear them up
Oh,
to the
just-
garden and then come out of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could do that.
First time I stepped on an oak snake up there, that'd probably be the end of my life right there.
You would be grounded.
I
wouldn't
would
you?
be grounded.
Let's talk about kids' health and gardening.
Okay.
So these days, I had this conversation the other day with another grandparent about kids staying inside, watching TV, electronics, and they're just not outside.
Yep. It's a terrible, terrible thing. It really is. We didn't know any better when we was coming up. We stayed outside. But you know, our parents didn't care. I can remember being gone for hours in the woods and they didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they didn't care, but it was a thing. It was okay.
We also, when our grandkids were here a couple weeks ago from Ohio, and we were just so conscientious about being right there with them outside. When our kids were that age, they went out in the morning and didn't come back till they got hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we didn't worry about them.
Right.
And they, had a go-kart, a golf cart, bicycles. I mean, they were just gone.
Yeah.
And we did the same thing as when
Oh
we were
yeah.
younger.
Oh, I was even worse. That we'd be gone for hours.
But it's been studied that if you do teach kids to get out there and garden, they get the health benefits, the mental benefits, but they tend to eat more varieties if they help grow them.
I can
It
see that.
spikes their interest, and they're more likely to at least try the vegetable
Yep.
if they had help growing it. And the other things is the relationship you have with that kid, teaching them that generation stuff. It's really important.
Yeah, I had somebody ask me the other day where I got my love of gardening from, and I had to go back and see it. It's really, I got it from my grandfather, but I could promise you, at that moment that it clicked for me as a child with my grandfather, he had no idea what happened. Because he was just in the middle of doing things, and I know he didn't realize that it clicked for me, and I had that appreciation for going forward, but I did. But I know he was thinking, man, I just got to get rid of this kid. Drive me crazy. But he took the time to explain a couple of things to me. I remember that distinctly. I would ask, of course, kids are in that question stage. And he was one that would take the time to answer questions. And I remember asking him, why are you doing this? And he would explain to me, this is how he saved his tomato seeds. You know what I mean? And he would explain to me different varieties of watermelons and things like that. He would take that time, and that's another thing too, is to take time to answer those questions.
Another thing that when I was reading that I came across was green space. You ever heard of green space?
Never have. Well, I've heard of it, but I don't know exactly what you're talking about.
So the National Institute of Health did this study, and I'll put the link to the article below. But exposure to plants or green space, gardens, particularly gardens, is very beneficial to mental and physical health.
Yep.
With the aging population, the increasing health needs, is considered an alternative therapy.
Yep. The paper that I read out of the UK said the same thing. Said, let me see if I can find.
You didn't look at the same paper, right?
I did not look at the same paper you did. I'm gonna read this right here. Few complementary therapies have been convincingly shown to be as effective as gardening in nature. How about that? I'm gonna read that one more time. Few complementary therapies have been convincingly shown to be as effective as gardening in nature is. That's pretty profound, isn't it?
Well, this hospital combines the physical activity along with the social interaction for gardening. And you see a lot of this in communities and community gardens, schools, even in prisons. Have a green space. It's very therapeutic.
Speaking of that, I got to go on a little tangent here. On May the 2nd, I'm going to be able to, a fella came yesterday, and I'm going to a community garden in the South here. This is one of the best ones I've seen, and we may do a little short video there, but I am just amazed at what these people have done in this rural community here with the community garden. So I'm going to try to highlight some of the things they've done.
So we talked about, with kids, another thing is the learning experience. And you talked about...
I got you off track there, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Another thing that a garden does for you, and you enjoy this, is whether it's plants or the finished produce, is giving.
Yeah, I enjoy that a lot. And I tell you one thing that we didn't do as much as last year that we needed to do, and we used to do this. When our zinnias and sunflowers came in and we had extra vegetables on Saturday afternoon, we would make up 2 or 3 little care packages with flowers, and we would visit some of the older ladies in the community,
The shut-ins, the widows.
and visit them just for a moment, because you got things to do, but we would take a moment to visit them and give those to those people there. That's something that we got to start back doing more of this year.
And all you need is a flower and a mason jar.
Yeah, and maybe just a handful of okra or a couple of tomatoes, whatever. You'd be surprised. But the visit, keep it short, they appreciate that.
And then the last thing, which, to sum it all up, one of the joys of gardening, or why people garden, is a social connection. Have you thought about that?
I've not thought about that.
So gardening brings people together, and it strengthens the social connections. And we have a lot of that on social media. But you can also do it on a smaller scale within your community.
Yep.
The community gardens, or you get that social connection.
Yep. And starting small, even if you don't vegetable garden, but if you just want to start something, just put some wildflowers in. Just set aside a little space, put some wildflowers in if you don't do nothing else. So
Let us fill a word there. We talked about that this morning.
yeah.
Why do you garden? What is your why?
Yeah. Why is your why? That's good.
What
why
is your why? What is your why?
My why is although I enjoy the vegetables that come out of it, I think my why is more of a mental thing than anything else. I think it's really true. If I had to narrow it down, I think I do it more for my mental well-being.
Mine's kind of selfish, because I think mine goes back to the self-esteem and being able to plant that seed and watch it grow into a flower or a vegetable.
That's interesting.
It's just satisfying. You can actually do something with little effort.
That's interesting. Yep. Why is your why? That's good.
What is your why?
What is your why?
What is your why?
What is your why?
And whatever you do, set a goal to begin with. This is really important. And start small, whether it's just a pot of flowers.
Wildflowers, pot of flowers, raised bed,
Pot
whatever.
of basil.
Yep.
It's just something really small. Build your network. Join our Facebook group. Is so much knowledge in that Row by Row group. And do your research. Don't set yourself up for failure and plant something that's not going to grow in your area.
Yeah, one more thing, talking about groups, I run across this right here. I'm a member of a couple of gardening groups. Just about every state has a Florida backyard gardening group or a Georgia backyard gardening group, and these things are huge. They have a lot of postal area. So do that right there. Do a little search on Facebook, and you can find a gardening group for your area right there. All right, we got to get to gardening of the week. That was a good show there.
Garden
I actually learned a few things, and I was interested. It was enlightening.
I learned a few things. I already knew I knew them, but just seeing it in print kind of confirmed.
All right, what we got here is some onions. By the way, folks, on your onions, if you planted your onions in the fall of the year, like we do here in the South, a lot of people don't know when to harvest your onions. When half of your tops, and this is a general guideline, when half your tops fall over, it's time to get them out of the ground.
When you say tops,
I'm talking about right here.
no, it's actually right there is where mine.
Yep, sometimes they fall over
Like
there.
right
there
above
at
the
neck.
bulb.
Yep.
Yeah, they just like somebody went on there and broke all their necks.
Yep. So we got onions.
Oh, onions. Okay, this is, I got lost there. I just harvested my onions.
Yeah.
Jacob Willingham from Caldwell, Texas, and these are Vidora onions planted November the 20th.
Well, Jacob, you did a wonderful job there. Look at the raised beds, and it's amazing how many onions you can grow in a raised bed. Yep.
It is.
He did a good job of spacing his out. He did a good job of fertilizing them. So thank you, Jacob, for sending that in. We are going to send. Oh, Jacob just gets garden spotlight, don't he? We're running short on socks.
Yeah, garden spotlight.
Speaking of onions, I will be leaving this afternoon. I'm going to Vidalia, Georgia, to do onion trials for the next 24 hours. I will be looking at onion trials at Vidalia.
Will y'all taste them?
Possibly, yeah. It's going to be interesting to me. I've never been to a huge onions. We're going to be looking at carrots, but mainly onion trials. And I'm going to meet with a couple growers up there. It's interesting. Do some tours up there on commercial onion production.
So if you want to send us your garden spotlight, on our webpage, under Halls University, there's a place you can submit your photos. We appreciate them.
Heck yeah. All right, old goat drawing, folks. The old goat's on set somewhere. If you find the old goat, put it in the comments below. And next week, we will draw a winner. Last week's winner is Scotty White. Scotty, send us your shipping information to
Support at
growhalls.com.
growhalls.com.
We've changed that recently, and I have a hard time remembering it. We'll send you some Get Dirty socks. We're running a little slow on Get Dirty socks here. We're about out of them, but we got some more ordered. Scotty, you'll be the talk of the town wearing them Get Dirty socks around.
So put in the comments, what is your why?
What is your why? And share with some of maybe your family members that need some help. Maybe they're suffering from depression or getting out, exercising and everything. Share with them what the benefits of gardening can do. And I think it could be
and
beneficial.
if you're got a lot of people say, I wish I could garden, but I've got a bad back, I got a bad knee. There's ways you can do it.
No excuses. All right, folks, thank you for joining us. Until next time, get outside and get dirty.